This is NBR Today. Businesses are expected to come under increased scrutiny this year, and so are their regulators. The Australian Royal Commission into Misconduct in the Banking, Superannuation and Financial Services industry was echoed in New Zealand by the Financial Markets Authority and Reserve Bank's review of banks and life insurers' conduct and culture. The government has already promised to fast-track legislation that better protects consumers, which could include banning advisor commissions, and there's likely to be more red tape for directors. The watchdogs themselves are also likely to come under increased scrutiny after the Royal Commission particularly criticised the lack of enforcement action by Australian regulators and their failure to prevent breaches of existing laws. Law firm Minter Ellison Rudd Watts predicts heightened scrutiny by regulators into the financial services industry, with other sectors to follow.
Yes, the pace of change in legislation has really ramped up over the last few years. The key thing is that there has been a signal as a result of the conduct and culture reviews for banking and insurance that there does need to be some change in terms of how businesses operate. And so I think the financial services industry are ramping up to deal with those changes and are looking to respond really proactively to them. But it will be a challenge.
Feltex investors are likely to argue their multi-million-dollar compensation claim on two fronts when the second stage of the High Court civil trial takes place in Wellington in November. Lawyers for the 3,600-plus Feltex investors today argued an application seeking direction for a workable structure for the Stage 2 trial. The claim seeks compensation for the damage or loss caused by the untrue statement in the 2004 Feltex prospectus, which raised $254 million from the New Zealand public and institutional investors. It's now expected that two tests will be considered at November's trial. What were the shares worth based on the true position? And would an investor who was concerned about a particular risk still have invested if the existence of that risk had been fully disclosed? Or was an investor with concerns about particular types of investments misled into believing that the Feltex investment was not of the type that he or she would consider objectionable? Investors are seeking more than $200 million in compensation. Hacked cryptocurrency exchange Cryptopia could reopen in a matter of days as police confirm they've just wrapped up their on-scene investigation at its Christchurch headquarters. Detective Inspector Greg Merton says Cryptopia's management now has full access to its facility and business premises. A month on from the hack, questions remain over who's responsible for the disappearance of more than $23 million in crypto assets. But Mr. Merton says the police investigation is continuing both in New Zealand and in the US. Cryptocurrency experts say there are two obvious possibilities. Either a staff member or a sophisticated hacking organisation was involved. The only respite for victims is that the bleeding appears to have stopped, at least for now. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has delivered her statement to Parliament outlining the government's aspirations for the next 12 months and beyond. It's centred around three themes: building a productive, sustainable and inclusive economy, improving the well-being of New Zealanders and their families, and ensuring new leadership by government. A big focus this year will be its well-being budget in May, in what the government says will be a world first. But that claim has already prompted plenty of debate, with the National Party saying all governments use budgets to lift well-being. NBR's political editor Brent Edwards says this is an important year for both leading parties.
For both the National Party and for the government parties, there's a lot riding on this year. If the government can get a number of those things right, and as I say, do what the Prime Minister says and deliver, then that'll be a big tick for it. If it can't, and the National Party is able to continue to criticise it for the lack of delivery, then that'll be a big tick for National.
The founder of software-as-a-service retail management company Vend says the smart retailers of the future will still retain brick-and-mortar stores. Vend helps retailers to be as digitally efficient as possible, and its founder, Vaughan Ferguson, says after years of threats of disruption to retailers, the dust is settling to reveal a hybrid model, a mix of online and offline commerce. Physical stores have been closing for years as more businesses choose to funnel their products through online platforms and customers shop with apps. But Mr. Ferguson says it would be unwise to write off brick-and-mortar locations just yet.
Everything comes down to changing user behaviour. And even though you can buy everything online, like you could buy a car, you could buy a Tesla online if you wanted to. Never need to look at a Tesla. You could just order one, pick the colour, and it'll get delivered. So you can. There's like literally nothing you can't order online, and that's always been the case since we've had e-commerce. And even before e-commerce, we had mail order catalogues, but collectively they never accounted more than 15% of commerce. So something still keeps us going out, getting into our cars or our Lime scooters or whatever mode of transport that we want to use, and doing that social thing of going, shopping the high streets, finding those hidden treasures.
To tomorrow, and Rodney Hyde's column this week gives a Yes Minister take on the IRD's controversial inclusion of political questions in a poll. So for more on that and other stories, do head to our website and enjoy your evening.
To unlock your 2 free articles a week, head to nbr.co.nz.